Hi, my name is Bhanuprakash. I'm having around 10 plus years of experience in Java applications like Struts, Spring Boot, and I have worked on the various projects related to microservices. And also I have a good experience in Oracle technologies like Oracle Web Center Sites, Web Center Portal, SOA, and also Identity and Access Manager. In today's session, I am going to cover of what is a Spring Boot exception handling. So, what is an exception and how we can handle the exceptions in the Spring Boot applications. Okay. Today's agenda is what is an exception handling, why the exception handling is important, different types of exception, custom exception, how you will be having, for example, customer not found, student not found, employee not found, those type of things. Global exception handling. When it comes to the global exception handling, suppose if general exception occurs, runtime exception occur, you are handling the custom exceptions, but apart from those custom exceptions, any other exception comes, how you have to handle, and all these things you will be managing in one place. Okay, like custom exception, all those things in one place, so that any issue comes, usually it will identify how we can debug it. Error response, how your error response in a JSON format, it should be exception flow. When there are the network errors due to some reasons, if the network is down or there is a network, how you will be handling those timed out. Whenever you are calling the backend service, due to the end you are expecting the response has to come in 1 minute, 2 minutes, depends upon your business rules. So within, if you are not able to get the response within the given time, how you are going to handle the exception. Database exception, if due to some reasons, if the database is down, primary key violation, unique key violation, or some other any database operation, if the connection has been failed, unable to connect to the connection something, then how you are going to handle the database exception and the best practice. So in this session we are going to see how the exception handle in the microservices on for the different scenarios, how you have to handle the exceptions, this thing. Okay. So what is an exception handling mechanism of to handle errors? So what is an exception? An exception, whenever you are executing your program, if due to some reasons abnormal condition has came and you want to handle the particular scenario, or let me assume that you are doing some data registration of the employee. Okay, what the first thing is you will do is whether already the employee exists in the system with this name. Then if the employee already exists, then you will handle that particular scenario and terminate the operation that saying that employee already exists, because I don't want to go to the entire registration form, what is the employee name, number, department number, what is the address, HRA, all these things. If already that if already that employee is there, then you have to display that employee already exists and you can stop. So due to this abnormal condition, if happens, you have to, how you are going to handle this condition is called an exception handling. Next one is prevent application crashes. As I told, it prevents the application from crashing by catching the exception and allow the system respond appropriate to the end user or a customer or a client. Meaningful API responses. I don't want to throw an generic exception and all this stack trace that doesn't understand by the end user. So you have to handle it and re-throw a proper exception. Provides a clear and user-friendly response to API consumers, helping them understand what went wrong and how can we address it. Separate errors from business logic. The whole point of this global exception is coming is, when I'm writing my code, I need not worry about the exception. So this global exception framework helps how we can handle a different exception in one place, and that will become easy to fix, so that as a developer I'll be more concentrating on the business logic rather than, okay, if this comes, how to handle, or this error comes, when to throw an error. I need not worry about those things whenever you are writing, especially on your REST service. Why exception handling is important in Spring Boot, especially the Spring Boot and microservice, the exception is very important thing. Proper HTTP status codes, Okay, different error codes. For example, you're trying to access an uh, a resource which doesn't exist, then you will throw an 404. Or let's assume that if you are trying to access the resource which there is authentication mechanism and authentication fails, then you will say you're unauthorized 401, and there is a forbidden. Okay, and there are different error codes which are there. Exception handling enables returns accurate HTTP status codes like 401, 503, 500, and whenever the inform API consumers with the nature of errors clear. Clean business logic, this I was talking about. Separate error handling from the core logic keeps controllers and service focus on the business rules, making the code easier to read and maintain it. Okay. Centralized error mechanism, this I was talking about the global exception. All the exceptions should be handled in one place called global exception. So you need not worry about the exception. Okay, there is a mechanism where you can have a Spring advice and you write your own global exceptions. Improve reliability, consistent exception handling helps developer quickly identify, reproduce and fix the issues, enhancing your API stability and the performance. Then depends upon this, always I suggest whenever you are returning the exception, return in a JSON format, so that if let's assume that the client is consuming or a front end is consuming, for them easy to handle it. Types of exceptions in Spring Boot: application exception, that is customer not found, user not found, employee not found. Whenever you want, these are the custom, you can define your own custom and then you can do it. Network exceptions due to the network failures, IO exceptions, then how to handle it. Timed out, as I told, whenever you are calling the third party, if you are having some third party API when you are calling and you are expecting the response in 1 minute as per the as per agreed SLA, then how you have to handle the timed out. Service exception, whenever you are calling the third party and there is a service, okay, the service is throwing some exception, how you have to handle it. Database or a JPA, whenever there is a, as I told, whenever there is a data integrity, primary key violation, unique key violation, those types of database, how you are going to handle it. Custom exceptions, why custom exceptions? Clean controller and service code by the separating error logic, provide more descriptive and meaningful error messages, give precise control over mapping exceptions of HTTP codes. For this HTTP code, what is the error code and error message you are giving? For example, there is a 500 error, that is a HTTP code, and my code is mandatory is missing. Okay, the important mandatory email is a mandatory field, but you are not sending the email or you are not sending in a proper format. How you have to handle, and you will be sending with that HTTP error code and error code as well as error message with the HTTP status of 500. Example: customer not found, service unavailable, request timed out. Custom exceptions extends the runtime exceptions. Okay, and next one is the customer passes the error message to superclass for handle it. For a public class, this is an example like customer not found extends the runtime exception, and you say this is a constructor and you pass to the super. Global exception handling uses as I told, REST controller advice to create the global error. Exception handling methods handle specific exceptions. Avoid repetitive try catch. See, typically how we do the exception handling, you write your business logic, you say try catch, customer not found, like other exceptions if it is there, illegal argument exceptions, runtime exceptions, general exceptions. So all this, that means your exception handling, you're tightly coupled. But now using this global exception concept, that can be easily ignored, which I will show with an example. Avoids repetitive try catch block, ensures consistency, unified JSON error. So as I told, whenever there is an exception, you want to always return in a JSON format, in a specific format, which client can easily understand and handle it and show in his UI or whatever the format he wants to show. Simplifies maintenance with a single error management location. Example of global exception: handles customer not found, maps exception to the status, depends upon 404, 503, 408, returns error response JSON with the status. If it is a success, then you will be sending, if it is a different error messages, how you will be sending with the HTTP, different HTTP and error code and error message. Fallback handler for example, if due to some reasons, if general exception comes, what you service unavailable or unable to handle exceptions, whatever you want to show, you can show. Improves API reliability to a clear client communication. JSON error format. This is the format if status is 404, message is customer not found. And HTTP, you will be giving a proper HTTP code for it. Java error messages define the structure error response for API. Status message, like there is the error response, how you will be defining and how your JSON should be look like. You can write this thing, okay? And you can use Lombok at the right data. So getters and setters, you need not worry about it, will take care. Okay. Controller service repository exception flow. See, typically if you see, right, how actually your Spring Boot or a microservice, you will be having a controller. Controller will be calling the service. Okay. The service you will be calling it typically, if you are using a JPA, you will be calling the JPA, and JPA will be talking to the database. Okay. So each level, how you have to handle the exceptions, this one. Okay. And here business logic, here you can say controller receives a request, the controller accepts incoming HTTP request and delegate the process to the service layer. The service layer process the business rules, whatever the business, and may invoke repository or an external API. If it is a database, you will talk to the database. If it is a third party like API we are using, then you will be calling that. And the service layer, repository and external calls. Repository access the database or external services. Okay, database queries, external IPs, exception propagates. Global exception handling, exception towards the REST controller advice. You'll be using this annotation to send consistent JSON error responses. Handling network, common cause of the external like API down, DNS failure, there is a no internet connection, all those comes under the network errors. Network exception disrupt the communication to the service to the third party, causes delay or the failures in the application workflows. Use try-catch blocks to capture the network exception like IO, resource access exception, all those stuff. Example is IO exception, service unavailable. These are some of the examples. Handle timed out, as I told. You are calling a third-party API and you are expecting the response within 30 seconds or 1 minute. And the response within the given the time frame, if the response is not coming back, then you throw the timeout exception. Okay. Misconfiguration timeout. Common causes include network latency, heavy server load, inefficient query, delay. Examples: handle invokes the catching delays, throwing the request timed out exceptions. Sample code, catching interruption, request timed out exception, meaningful message, proper timed out has to be handled. Exception database, the common exception is primary key violation, unique key violation, nulls, okay, or the format, you are not giving the expected format exception. Okay, common database is a duplicate keys, nulls, deadlocks, connection failures. Spring Boot maps the database exception with the data integrity violation. Example is exception handling catch, data integrity violation exception, and 400 bad exception with a clear message. This centralized exception maps helps maintain consistent error response and improves debugging. Handling DB exceptions in a global level this is very important, that it keeps your business logic clean from your exception handling. Best practices for the exception handling: use custom exceptions, create domain specific exception for clear, more precise error handling and better HTTP code. Centralize error handling, use a global exception mechanism, so that there is a centralized framework where you can handle your exception, like using @REST controller advice. Avoid stack traces to clients, never expose the actual stack trace, that is you can log those but you should never show to the customer. JSON format, as I told, always a good practice to return your error message in the JSON format so that the client can handle properly and better. Validate, improve thoroughly, perform the input. For example, customer already exists. Okay, you check for if already customer already exists, then throw. Meaningful error messages, provide a clear meaningful error messages to the client. So this is about the theory, what is an exception handling. So what we have seen is what is exception handling, how we can do the exception handling in microservice global theory. Let me see some of the practical example for these some of the scenarios. It's not possible to show all the scenarios, but few scenarios. For example, you are trying to retrieve a customer who doesn't exist, so what it is throws. So let me see the practical. First I will go through the code, then I will show in the this one. So the pom.xml here, just I'm formatting so that it is okay. So here you can see I'm using 3.5.6. Here these are the starter. For example, starter web, I'm using the JPA. For my database operations, ORM, I'm using the Hibernate, and MySQL, I'm using like a MySQL, and you can go with your own. For this demo, I'm using MySQL. You can go HTTPD, Oracle, etc. Okay. DevTools, when I'm doing the changes, automatically it should get using Lombok. This is, you need not write setters and getters. Okay. And these are the my POM file. The next one is application.properties. Here you are specifying the database URL, username, password, and dialog is here MySQL dialog, Hibernate dialog, and this is either create. Here two options are there. One is you can use either create, that means whenever you're starting server, every time it creates a new table for you, or you can specify as a update. So existing table, if already it is there, then you can just update the records. Okay. For now I am going with the create. So every time it creates the new table. Okay. And the next one is, here you can see the custom application. This is the starting point of your application, and here is your REST service, which has a 3 to 4 operations like create, then display, and get by ID, and you can delete it. Okay, you pass the ID and delete the operation. The next one is, this is my entity. Entity is nothing but your table. Okay, so here is mapped to the table customers, ID generation, email and name, and here is the setters. Either you can use setters or this getters, or you can use @data. Okay, or you can totally ignore it. Okay, the setters and getters. So for now I am going with this entity. The next one is, this is important. Here you can see the customer not found extends the runtime exceptions, and you are calling the super. Okay, here is a customer not found. Then next one is the, for example, timed out exception. Your timed out exception extends runtime exception. Then each scenario, for example, service not available, you'll be extending the service not time. And error message, this is basically for the JSON format to return, and it captures the status. For example, 500, like 501, your this thing, and what is the message. Okay. And the next one is a global exception. This is very, very important. This is a global exception. You are using the REST control advisor. Here you can see different exception. Customer not found, how you are throwing. For example, not found. Okay, 404. The next one is service not available, 503 you will throw, and request timed out, 408. Bad request, here you can see, as I am telling, database constraint violation, internal server error. Okay, so these are the some of the exception handling. For each thing you will be, this is like customer not found, whenever the service not available, there is a timed out exception, and there is a primary key violations or database, and this is a global. Apart from these things, if there is another exception you want to handle it properly. Okay, and let me go to your customer service. Okay, so here you see, here you will be handling, for example, this is your constructor constructor injection where I'm using, and here whenever the save, due to some reasons the save did not happen, you will say service not available, unable to save the record. Okay, and customer, if let's assume that you are trying to get by ID, If customer, if valid ID you have sent, it will return the customer object. Else you will now say customer not found with this ID. And same thing if you're trying to delete here you can see customer. So that entire try catch is totally ignored in a simple way. Okay, you using this, if the customer is, you try to get the customer, if the customer not there, then you will be throwing the lambda expression. Okay, here you can see if this thing, then customer not found. Okay, this one. Okay, so we have seen everything: customer control, customer not found, and here finally repository. This is just you extend the JPA repository which comes with your various or database query out of box. You need not write any code. All the connection, close, everything it will handle. The Spring framework will handle, and it provides like save, get by ID, find by ID, get all records, everything. It provides a out of box the JPA repository. And I have this the Spring Boot. I hope you are able to see it. Okay, and here what I'm doing is, let me assume that first let me create a customer. Okay, there is some customer, and click on send. Here you can see that the customer is already created, and here you can see, let me assume that I give some, okay, some just for sample I want to create 2-3 records. Here you can see it has created, okay, some. And if you want to get the all the customers, you can click on the this thing. So you can see here whatever the database records 1, 2. Okay, I have currently 2. Now if you want to see the customer by ID, let me assume that I am giving 1 and click on send. If the customer is dealing, you will get the customer information. Same way, if let me assume that I want to get the customer based on the ID, you can get it. And delete, if you want to delete any customer, let me assume that I want to delete a customer, you say here, and here you can say deleted successfully. Now let me see the different error scenarios. I am trying to get like a customer who doesn't exist. Let me see what actually happens. So whenever you click on this, you say 404, and that means customer ID not found with this ID. So this is how you will be handling the mechanism. Okay, if you try to get a customer who doesn't exist, you want to throw in proper in a JSON format, which the front end can handle in a better way. Maybe it will display a customer not found or something. In similar way, you are trying to delete a customer who doesn't exist. Okay, then we'll see it should say the customer with this ID doesn't exist, 404. And here you can see this is my HTTP code, and here you can put the same status code, or you can change it. Okay, let me see here. I want to change this error code. Okay, for example, customer not found. Here I want to say might be 501 or 4 some message like exception 404, or might be 141001. Okay, let me see what actually happens. Just have change for demo, and let me assume that try to get a customer who doesn't exist. Here you can see the status has changed. This is not changed, 404, but you can put your own. If you want to prepare a typically what we do in the real-time examples or scenarios, right? We give a error code. So if this error code comes and we prepare a documentation, if these type of error codes, you can go and refer to this documentation, what it means. Okay. For example, more information on the particular, so you can go and search for this error code, and this how typically your Oracle throws. It says you some ORCL, some error code. So always you can go to the Oracle website and see. So this is some of the how to do the exception handling. So we have seen that what is an exception, what are the different types of exceptions, how to handle the exceptions in microservices, and also the global exception framework. With an example, some of the examples, it's very difficult. I haven't give timed out and all those stuff, but I haven't shown. But just a, you can write your own custom code, because it's just a demo purpose I am showing. But in real time, you can handle the request timed out exceptions, database exceptions, all those stuff. Okay, but the demo purpose I have shown only the custom defined exception. So this is how you do the exception handling in a Spring microservice or a Spring Boot application. Okay, so that's really it is. Thanks for watching this video, and hope you have got some idea about the exception handling. Thank you.